Excellency, the Rashtrapati Ji, the Honorable Prime Minister, the Distinguished Chief Justice, Justice Bhandari, Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad, distinguished judges, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great initiative that Justice Bhandari and his colleagues have taken in publishing in form of a book an overview of what's happening in the rest of the world as far as judicial reforms are concerned. Two factors which over the last 2 decades or 2 to 3 decades have impacted on judicial reforms. One is the advent and the discovery of new technologies, and the other is the changing horizons of economy, particularly both domestic and international coordination of the economy itself. And this has completely changed the landscape of jurisprudence as far as various areas are concerned. And no society can afford to really be behind times in coping up with these changes. Otherwise, we'll find that our laws are completely anachronic as far as the times are concerned. I am not pessimistic, and I've never been, about the very idea of judicial reforms in India. Various statutes have to be enacted, many of them have to be updated. And in fact, if we see the history across successive governments, have been acting as far as those areas are concerned. As a part of that reform process, you need newer norms of interpretation, adding literally blood and flesh to the bare skeletons which existed. And therefore, almost with every pronouncement, a major pronouncement which comes up by the court itself, by a process of judicial interpretation, itself, a lot of reforms itself takes place. And the third important aspect of the reform always has been furthering the constitutional values itself. And therefore, we have a glorious history in this country, except some brief periods as an exception, where virtually almost every tenet of the constitutional values, be it fundamental rights, be it judicial independence, be it the federal structure, be it the institution of free and fair elections, all these institutions literally have been strengthened by a process of fundamental rights, and that's the reason why we are a strong democracy as we are today. There's one more aspect which actually concerns us. The first amongst them, I think, is the whole issue, which is an issue of common concern to all, which is a matter of delay. Litigation taking too much time and therefore eroding public confidence in the very institution of litigation itself. And I think it's a responsibility both of governments, state and center, in providing the adequate enlarged infrastructure required for expeditious disposal. It's also a responsibility of a court by virtue of interpretation and its own management, particularly now with the user of technologies itself, to expedite the whole process of expedition as far as cases are concerned. Well, there would be several issues which will keep confronting both Parliament and the judicial institution. And I think its strength of democracy is that this debate, particularly the issue which my colleague, the Honorable Law Minister, just now raised, between the conventionalists and the activists as an ideological divide in jurisprudence, this debate will always go on. And it's always up to the vision and statesmanship of those who administer the institutions, both in the legislature, in the government, as also in the judicial institution, how to bring that fine balance, how to bring about that self-disciplining, so that that institutional balance remains as far as the institutions are concerned. I have never had hesitation in admitting that having evolved through various stages, I would now put myself more in the conventionalist category, and I would prefer that opinion. But I think that's a debate which will go on, and I'm sure that the statesmanship of our institutions will stand out in upholding what the correct balance in these institutions would be. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Justice Bhandari, for once again bringing out this very fine publication which gives us a global overview.